Alright guys, we are back and we have teams named things that they're not named in the brackets. Mediocre Dota players versus We Need 5 to call Captain Planet. And again with me is Nizcast. How you doing, Niz?
I'm doing great.
Well guys, I'm excited for this game. I'm gonna go ahead and say it again, and I'm gonna say it as many times as I get the chance during these waiting. Oh, sorry, I didn't change the screen. That is on me. As often as I can for you guys. Well, the frames are kind of alright. It's dropping. I apologize. I don't think it's on my side. Pretty sure it's on Twitch's side. If it's too buggy for you guys and you want to catch this action, it will be on my YouTube, uploaded by tomorrow, if not Saturday, and all of the VODs will be there in 1080p, awesome quality, etc., etc. So I apologize, but you guys have an alternative version to look forward to. So with further ado, we'll go ahead and get into this game. We see Lycan and Doom banned out by the Dire side, Razor and Faceless Void by the Radiant. Not too surprising and pretty standard as far as what you see in a normal Dota game these days.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the kind of heroes that we've seen. Nothing surprising here. Which team is Mediocre Dota players? Is that Harlem?
Ooh, that's a really tough question. Whichever one, let me check on the bracket, Chin or Feed. Whichever one. Hooray is the We Need. So yeah.
Okay.
The We Need Falcons Knees of Justice is Captain Planet. So, not entirely sure who too many of these other players are. Chin or Feed is a decently well-known player in the scene. I think Pumpkin Dota is, although I haven't heard too much about him. But honestly, there's not really too much to focus on in that sense. Instead, we'll look at this game on face and see what these teams do, what they've come up with. And Brewmaster is going to be the first pick. Viper is the response. Definitely interesting picks coming out. Brewmaster, of course, the team fight controller that he is. And on the other side for Captain Planet, Viper and Wraith King are just lane dominating as well as fight dominating heroes because they're so hard to kill. Tidehunter plus Brewmaster, however, is a lot of AoE teamfight control and multi-hero control, so both teams definitely have interesting ways to get into this game.
Yeah, and these picks came out fairly quickly too, which a little bit surprising considering you typically don't see Brewmaster first pick like that. But yeah, they quickly brought out the Viper Wraith King, and then the Tidehunter came out almost immediately as well. So the teams knew what they wanted. And didn't care too much about what their opponent picked.
By accident, I hit the unmute button on the stream thing. I was trying to hide the video preview. It was not good. Mirana is a good ban with the Wraith King. I think on top of that, they might look to ban something like a Rasta. Heroes that can take advantage of one teamfights and get collateral afterwards are definitely heroes that the Radiant side is going to be looking to. At least that's what I'd be looking to. We will see the AA ban out, and I think that's a good decision. AA is just one of those heroes. I mean, we saw it last game, even though Dota Waffle Squad lost that game. They still got a lot out of that AA pick, and the AA ultimate just does so much for you no matter what. It's almost always a good ultimate, especially when landed well. And there is the Rasta ban, so definitely a smart decision there in my opinion, but there are other heroes for them to worry about. There is definitely room for a Death Prophet pickup here, which is another hero that can just chunk away towers after a one-team fight. So, there's a lot in that respect.
Another thing about the an AA pick would completely nullify the Wraith King's aura. And it would also, without the aura, there's no way you're going to have a Wraith King going carry, so that would really limit their pick to the Wraith King just being support. But yeah, I really wonder what they're going to pick here.
Yeah, both teams haven't really shown, like, both teams have, I guess, a piece of the puzzle, but not enough. And the Skywrath Mage definitely shows a lot more. The Captain America's team or Captain Planet team is going to be looking a lot more for the early game, mid game domination, and do, you know, Mystic Flare follow-ups from the stuns on the Wraith King, the team fight that the Viper, like just the tankiness and poison damage that he brings, allow Skywrath Mage to stay in the back and just fly out or throw out arcane bolts repeatedly. And overall, I think they have a very strong early mid-game lineup right now, and basically they could do anything with this still.
Yep.
I don't know.
Viper could be mid, it could be an aggro tri-lane with those three heroes.
Shadow
The
Demon,
big
I
thing could
really
be
like
Comet.
Shadow Demon. We don't see him that much anymore, but Shadow Demon is just honestly a downright incredibly powerful support. Disruption is one of the most underrated spells in my opinion because of its defensive capability. Offensively, it's great, but in the mid game, defensive disruptions change the game, and you defensively disrupt and prevent the Viper Strike from landing, or the Mystic Flare from landing. It can be really powerful now. So Skywrath and Viper are going to have to be constantly aware of the Shadow Demon's positioning and what he could do to basically just disrupt, literally, the team fight that they bring out.
Yeah, and even his ultimate can really do a lot to shut down a BK beat carry. Like Wraith King is a hero that's notorious for getting kited, and that's why he generally tries to pick up a movement, some kind of movement item like a blink dagger, or in the past he used to pick up a push stick or something like that. But yeah, if he pops his BKB and he still gets slowed by the Shadow Demon ultimate, he's just going to get kited and he's not going to be swinging away. But it still remains to be seen whether or not that Wraith King will be a carry. I imagine he will be support because he does pair really well with Skywrath. But
yeah,
their fourth pick here is going to be very, very telling.
Definitely. I think that's definitely the case for both teams in this situation. They can go into a lot here, and when you're in that situation in the draft, it's nice right now, but now you're going to have to show your hand, and I think there's a little bit of, a lot of thought actually going on over here from Captain Planeteers. They were not expecting that Shadow Demon pickup. Only 15 seconds left in their bonus time, and they're going to go ahead and throw quite a few of their chips into this early game portion of their strategy. The Venomancer pickup will definitely be focused towards pushing, controlling the game, and honestly ganking as well. Venomous Gale, very strong ganking spell, but point is that those heroes and their team is going to be alright late game. And it's going to be strong mid game, or ridiculously strong mid game, and pretty damn strong in the early game. But late game, it's just kind of right now. So they have that to look out for, but they have a lot to do in the mid game. So we'll see what they do against what Harlem Pub Trashers, aka mediocre players, is going to be doing in this situation.
Yeah, I love Venomancer, but I don't know if I really like the pick here at all. I do like Earthshaker as a pick here too. It gives him so much initiation. Both supports there. The Earthshaker and the Shadow Demon can just basically run right at you and initiate. Earthshaker can do it from really far out. Shadow Demon's disruption, you get quick boots on him, and he can do a lot too with initiating, allowing the Earthshaker to get into a good position, and really punish someone for being out of position. So the Radiant squad is going to have to be very defensive with who they choose to be their offlaner here.
I do like the Tinkerband in this situation, because if you can't win the game early on and there's a Tinker on the table, it's going to really hamper your ability to win the game at all. I think here mediocre Dota players are going to be looking to ban out another strong mid-game hero. Honestly, I'd really like to see a Death Prophet ban here. I think Death Prophet would be just one of those heroes that you throw in with this, and it would just give them insane pushing and teamfight power that they'd be able to potentially just train roll, or roll over what Captain Planet's 5 friends are trying to do here.
You talk about ending the game early. I don't think either team here can really end the game early. I think, barring there's no ridiculously lopsided early game, I think both teams are actually going to have are going to take this game fairly late. So I look for both these last picks to be something that's going to bolster their lineup in the late game. Yeah, it does remain to be seen. I'm not too sure about the Centaur ban, but
10 seconds.
Well, I think they're kind of in the same thought process that I am, but at the same time, this last pick really decides that if they pick another hero that doesn't scale late, they just want to win the game as soon as possible. And as soon as I remove the mention,
will they be able to do that? Like, I don't know, it's hard against.
It will be hard. It will be hard, but I mean, if that's your timing push and you have a strong enough team, the Templar Assassin is kind of that hero. She will give them some portion or some form of late game, but it's not the strongest pick in that respect. So they're definitely looking for some sort of mid to early late game timing to try to win this game here.
How does the matchup between TA and Brewmaster go?
I honestly feel like it should be pretty even. It depends on the TA skill, I think, the most, right? Because the TA can avoid
10
Drunken Brawler and
seconds to go.
not Drunken Haze, but Drunken Baller by doing the spill
5
damage. But
seconds.
Drunken Haze is a great spam spell to just prevent TA from farming.
Reserve time.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, which matchup do you want? Do you want the TA against the Brewmaster, or do you want the TA against the Tide? And then the Viper, of course, against the Brewmaster.
Honestly, I would prefer the Tide in the long run, because once you get level 5 on TA, the flat bonus damage from Refraction isn't affected by Anchor Smash, because it's only 60% of base damage. So, in the long run, you'd probably get more farm because of Refraction's bonus damage, mitigating out the Anchor Smash, whereas Drunken Haze is just going to be constantly applied to you. So, a little bit of a wash-up in some senses, but again, guys, I apologize. Right after I moved the tag about the frames dropping, the frames are dropping again. I don't know what's going on. I'm really sorry, but again, VODs will be uploaded to my YouTube if the frames continue to drop like they are. And the Slark is picked up in this situation, and actually my ping is all over the place.
So both teams don't go as late game as I thought they would, but they do somewhat bolster their lineup so that they can go a little bit later. But yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting. It's whichever team does really well in their early to mid game transition and kind of maintains that during the mid game is going to do really well this game, because I don't think we're going to see a real farm
This
war
should be
here,
interesting.
or we're definitely not going to see a real farm war. So that transition is really going to be the big deciding factor.
Well, fair enough with that. We'll go ahead and move into introducing the teams here. We have, on the Dire side, I will start off the Mediocre Dota players. Lego Pirate will be taking what looks like to be the safe lane farming Tidehunter. We have Pumpkin Dota picking up the Brewmaster, going the 2-branch build. We have Incurcio playing the Earthshaker support. Chennerfeed as the support Shadow Demon, and finally Asja Proji picking up the tri-lane farming Slark.
All right, and on the Captain Planet squad, we've got an offlane Venomancer who's starting boots first, and that's being played by
30
Igneos
seconds to battle.
X. Sure, we'll go with that. And then in the mid lane, we've got Charlie playing the Templar Assassin, and in the safe lane tri-lane, which looks like it's actually going to be a try.
Oh no, sorry. They placed it in Vision of the Tower.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, why did they place that sentry? Oh, I guess they
No, they were in Vision to
place it. Okay.
and they placed it.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Sorry, finishing the player introductions here, we've got
Battle
Hurai playing the Skywrath Mage. We've got Char playing a support Wraith King, so he's not going to be farming in the safe lane. And the farmer in the safe lane is LOK, or Lock.
Char, speaking of
Like,
being a
initiation.
support, is caught out in the jungle with the Fisher, followed up by the Disruption. However, the Slark did use his leap to get over the Fisher. He needed to, because it did zone him out from being able to get there. So a little bit impossible for them to net that kill. However, they did use some mana to force out a lot of consumables from Wraith King. He is going to have to bite into his third Tango, or his first Tango technically, and his salve, so he's down to only 2 Tangos in his inventory.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised that Wraith King let himself get caught there. They had already seen that the tri-lane, or that 3 heroes were at least in the bottom lane. Skywrath actually rotated to his own Ancients to place that ward. And Wraith King is fine to be in his jungle, kind of controlling the zone and kind of spotting, but he should always be having his back to where the enemy is most likely going to come from, so he doesn't have to turn around and escape. And with his higher move speed than the Shadow Demon, he should never get caught. But he did, so maybe he was looking away or just facing the wrong way.
Well, the Fisher is going to go out. It's going to hit on the Skywrath Mage. He does get disrupted, and Leap should be pretty easy to follow up here. He is actually illusion blocked in as well, and this should be the first blood going to Incurcio on the Earthshaker. That will net him boots early on, and Earthshaker is one of those heroes where once he gets on a good roll, he gets to that point where he blink echo slams, and that is a terrifying point in the game for you. So great start for the Dire side. Radiant side going to be looking to change that here.
Well, Wraith
It might
King's
continue.
tough.
Yeah, he will get actually tethered up here by the Slark. He does not have his Dark Pact yet, so he will not be able to debuff that stun, and doesn't look like Disruption. There's enough mana for Disruption there is now, but he is not in range to get it off, so he will just go ahead and break that Shadow Poison and deal the damage.
Yeah, he threw one too many Shadow Poisons there. Had he only thrown one, he would have got the Disruption off. Would it have gotten a kill? I don't know.
I know.
But,
I don't care either.
But yeah, he chose to throw a second Shadow Poison. And
Oh, in middle lane right now, we might see the TA dive.
No.
Doesn't actually yet get that spill damage on that attack right there. And lane will continue to be relatively even. Meanwhile, in top lane, it is decently even as well. I guess the Tidehunter only has 6 CS. The Venomancer leading that overall. And mid lane much more even in that sense. So, honestly, besides the tri lane right now, we're looking at a relatively even game.
Yeah, I think this Venom's definitely going to continue to dominate this lane. Venom's definitely going to have the upper hand here. Just depends whether or not he really tries to push this tower. He's been spamming his wards down, and he actually doesn't even have a point in Venomous Gale yet. But I don't think he'll really try to push the tower yet. I think he's just using the wards to kind of control the lane.
Well, I have seen this build before in offlane where you do skip the Gale, and we talked about that in a previous cast. It's a very strong offlane build, but honestly in this situation, Tidehunter can't anchor smash these wards, so he could get an early tower for his team, and it's not like Venomancer's going to miss many last hits with so many wards, and being their piercing damage actually do decent damage to creeps. They just really suck at hitting towers. Yeah, and he's going to get all this farm and continue to apply pressure on this lane. We'll see what he does at level 5. I think that'll change a lot of things. Dire Ward, yeah, they are rotating in, and the Dire Ward does see most of these rotations. It looks like they do just throw a Sentry Ward into this camp. Going to go ahead and pull this creep wave. Control up the pull, which is really smart when you're running an aggressive tri-lane, or really important. You need to make sure that you stop their pull and never let them get it for free. If they do de-ward it and get the pull off, you need to interrupt it and steal the wave. And do this. And now the wave is going to be consistently under their tower. And they're going to have a creep equilibrium control. DD spawning in the bottom rune.
What we haven't seen is any sentry wards come out of the Radiant side, and this Dire Observer ward is just doing so much to control this tri-lane. And that's really why the Dire is getting so much out of this tri-lane.
We might actually see them turn this around as Disruption goes out on to the Viper. He gets tethered up by this leash, and now the sorry, I cannot speak right now. The Brewmaster's coming in with this DD. He does go down, throw down the clap, but it's only to the Viper's dead corpse, as 4 heroes are here. And there are 2 salves on the support still in this Dire tri-lane, so they have enough consumables to heal up their Slark and stay in this tri-lane. Pumpkin Dota will just go ahead and return to mid lane. Not really needed for that gank, but the morale boost of him coming was enough for them to get the kill in the first place, so I guess you could take that. Maybe they actually might be able to get another kill here as the Fisher should be able to block it off. They just go ahead and run the tether. They throw out the Fisher, and it will prevent him from being able to get across. They throw out the stun onto the Wraith King. It's actually a little bit of space for him to get through, and they don't get either kills. Maybe a turnaround onto the Slark, but there's just not enough damage simply. And maybe Earthshaker overextending. They have the poison attack spam, and the salve is running on the Viper. There's no mana for them to turn this, and now they get the kill on the Shadow Demon. Will they get anything else? No. They will not. And 2 kills.
The Dire supports just tried to force a little bit too much there. Look at this top lane. Venos ran right through the tower.
He's even skipping his ultimate at this point. I mean, he has arcane boots, so he could get it. But honestly, I mean, look how much pressure he's applying, and Tidehunter's not going to stop this push.
Yeah, I think it's actually okay to skip your ultimate here. It doesn't look like there's going to be a fight anytime soon, a team fight anytime soon. It's not like he's really going to need it. What he needs is an extra point, either his wards or his poison sting. I'm not sure what he got at 5, what he got at 6, but yeah, it's just allowing him to keep so much pressure on this tower.
Oh, look at that ward block!
Block.
Just the psychological factor. But before you continue on that, the one thing I want to kind of point out is that Tidehunter was forced to get a Ring of Health instead of going Arcane Boots because of all this poison damage and just incidental ward damage. He blew through all his consumables and gets a Ring of Health, which in Tidehunter's standard item build is not going to really help him for a long time. Smoke Ink bottom might turn into something as the Shadow Demon is in position. They throw out the Fisher to block out the Viper. They do get the leash from Pounce, dealing quite a bit of damage. The Dark Pact is thrown into Disruption. A little questionable from the Shadow Demon. This is when Disruption can actually hurt you more than help you. And the Earthshaker does go down the background. They get the kill on the Viper anyways, but the chase turns around onto them as the Shadow Demon is down to 200 health, getting chased by Char, but the Slark just leaps in and pops the Skywrath Mage. He might be killed by the Wraith King here from the right clicks. He's at 13 HP. He has Strength Treads toggled, so he doesn't get any more HP. Will he turn around and get this kill with a right click from the Shadow Demon? Hits before the backswing swing of Wraith King. A little bit of hesitation there from Wraith King, preventing him from getting that kill, and now they're going to dive on the Venomancer, but the Ravage misses. A little bit of a mistake there. Ravage completely wasted, and now this Venomancer is just going to stay here and get this tower. Brewmaster's not going to pop his ultimate up here. It'd be a complete waste. They already used one large or long cooldown teamfight ultimate. Why would they want to use two to get a kill on a solo Venomancer?
And I've seen this panda all over the place. He's been bottom twice, he's now been top twice, and he is 0, 0, and 0. He's just running around wasting time. The mid lane was actually a wash, but yeah, it seems like every time he's been there, it's just either a little too late or the Radiant team has done a good job reacting to it. As we see, Veno's probably going to be in trouble here.
He does have a decent amount of movement speed from those arcane boots, and the slow from the wards might prevent him. No, he does get pounced on anyways, and now the primal split comes out of Brewmaster. He's going to throw out that boulder and get the stun on the Venomancer. Now maybe Wraith King might get chased down on the ult is running, but not going to be able to chase too far. As the panda is a little weak right now. They do have 0 armor and are only level 1, but that's an important kill because this tower will stand for a little bit longer, and that's just a little bit longer. They don't have to worry about losing that top lane tower and losing control of their jungle.
Yeah, that's all Pumpkin Dota needed me to do. I just had to call him out, and suddenly he got on the board immediately after. So good for him making good of one of his rotations. But yeah, the Radiant side has managed to get ahead here, as we see actually smoke on the Dire side with the Shadow Demon and the Earthshaker looking to do something as they move into the Radiant jungle.
And honestly, Viper is the most likely pick here, as there is no one else in the vicinity, and they will go ahead and run over there. Lego Pirate is going to pick up his arcane boots now, as, like I said, he just kind of got that ring of health for healing, it seems like, and Shadow Demon is going to move here and go for the disruption. They don't really have much follow-up. They will throw out the Fisher and just go for the stun. TPs will come in from the Skywrath Mage, and they could potentially turn this, but they choose not to. Just go ahead and escape, not sure what's in the background or in the fog, and the game once again stabilizes a little bit.
That was just really poor communication. Lego Pirate on the Tidehunter back to the secret shop to buy his mana boots when he could have just bought them at the side shop here, and by doing so he could have actually baited the Viper in even more. So by the time his supports got bottom, there was no Tidehunter to add to the damage to kill the Viper, so they weren't going to be able to kill him, and Viper was already playing safe anyways.
Yep, and with all due respect, that's what we call a mistake, and it happens. They're going to have to just get past that, not let that affect their play right now. They are still up 6-2, and this tower is getting pressure. Might start to get a little bit frustrating, is once it falls, Veno can just continue, and he does have Gale now, so if anyone gets out of position like this Lark, he's just going to go ahead and go for it, but TP is there, and now Chinnerfeet is going to TP, and I think this might be a little bit of a questionable decision because he has level 4 wards with 3 points in his poison passive, and now he's just going to stand here and get the kill on Chinnerfeet, and that's a free kill. Venomancer TP's out. A little bit overzealous there from the Shadow Demon.
Yeah, if I'm the Veno, I'll take that every day. That was an interesting play. I think he thought his Slark was going to come in and fight, but Slark was TPing out hell out of there. He was low health. But you see Radiant's actually going to take most likely a free tier 1 tower here bottom. Although there is a rotation from Earthshaker, but Tide was coming, but he went back mid as well.
No one else to follow up yet for that rotation, and maybe this mid lane rotation will be the point in which they defend. They do have the Fisher to throw out, followed up by the Ravage and Brewmaster split, as they're both off cooldown right now. Shadow Demon and Earthshaker haven't hit 6 yet, which is kind of important to note. But Earthshaker does have enough for his boots. He will go ahead and throw out the Fisher. I don't think they want to follow up on this, as they will just throw out poisons at this point. The Wraith King does ping this out as he's standing out on the right side, ready to set up and go in. I think that's good positioning by him. They shouldn't be aware of this. And I believe they have everyone here, but no, they have the Venomancer here. The only one who's not here is the TA, who is farming right now.
They're going to back up and play safe because the TA is able to take the mid tower. That was
and that's a huge tower advantage right now.
Response to the Dire rotation.
Stun does go out on to the Venomancer, followed up by the Blink Clap will be enough to drop him down to 300 HP, but he tries to get out the Primal Split with a great Ancient Seal timing, but the ultimate does go out anyways after the Viper strike, so it's kind of wasted, but the TA comes in with his DA and immediately clears the floor of the Shadow Demon. And now the Ravage comes out and hits 4 different heroes. Char getting low, doesn't have his ultimate yet. Skywrath Mage is thrown up into the air, and Char will go down here. Venomancer is down to very low health, and so is the Viper. As the split ends here, the TA is chasing down the rest of the team as he gets the Tidehunter, and will now get the, looks like the Earthshaker's one right click will be enough to finish it off. With then Drunken Haze is not going to prevent her from getting that kill. And now she goes invis with the meld, but she's in tower range, so they will not, or will be able to get that kill with the Slark, even though she melded, but with the Ancient Seal, as well as these Arcane Bolts. But a great timing from the disruption on the Shadow Demon saves his teammate, and I keep counting people out, but just great plays and those Shadow Poison sniped. Getting that last kill, Pumpkin Dota will go ahead and blink forward to try to finish this up, but just amazing saves back and forth. Honestly, I wrote off so many people as dead or alive, but then they get picked off again, and looks like Skywrath Mage does TP out successfully right there. But overall, just back and forth in that fight.
Well, all that craziness was going on, and everyone kind of dove past the tier 1 for that little fight. Veno, who was low health, snuck back in and managed to take that tier 1 tower. So he picked that up for his team.
So who do you give the advantage to after that fight? Because this game seems really all over the place.
I still I think the Radiant side is a little bit ahead right now. I think the TA is the real, well, the TA and the Veno, obviously they're the highest in the last hits right now, probably the highest in net worth, and they are. But I think both of them have kind of been doing the best job of controlling the game right now, and I think they're really going to dictate on how this game progresses from here. And I think you always want to be in that position where you're dictating how the game is going to go. And for that reason alone, I have to give the advantage to the Radiant, even though they are down 3 kills right now.
Well, and it is also worth factoring in that this Venomancer is about to pick up an Aghanims, and that's going to make his ultimate at level 11 do insane amounts of damage. Can definitely turn a fight if it goes long enough. And the way this TA is building is not the ganking, mid-game tempo controlling TA style that we normally see. Hold that thought, though, because Slark is coming in from behind. He will be able to get that leap, and no! Misses it as she does dodge it by stutter stepping to the right side, and that will end that gank. But what I was going to say, she's going for the more carry-esque build that we've been seeing these days, a little more common, which is the Manta style, and sometimes with a Midas, but you get the drums, the Manta, and then you can go into Desolator if you want to, but generally speaking, they just keep building more hard carry-esque items, and the way that Refraction works with attack speed makes it a really strong combo, because it's flat damage plus attack speed gives her a high DPS, so definitely works out well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to what you about this Veno picking up the eggs. Normally, I don't like Aghanims on Veno, but when you get it this early in the game against targets that are not going to have BKB, it does a lot of damage. And especially once because this Veno is also getting levels, he's going to be hitting level 11 soon, being level 10 right now, as we see Tide actually picking up his Blink Dagger. The Blink Ravage, as well as the Poison Nova, means this dire side is not going to
Gale onto Pumpkin.
Won't not going to be able to stick around in this place.
Yeah, nothing happens out of that. The Slark is split pushing top as TP response from the Radiant will come in. Doesn't look like they should get this kill, as the only one who did TP is the Viper, and as that's going on as well, the Templar Assassin is going to go ahead and push back bottom. They do get decent wards in the river as well during this time, and they're just going to continue to apply a pressure with these wards. It's really hard to kill a Veno, especially when he has this wall of wards. They would have to go all the way around, and they wouldn't be able to do that without him seeing. And maybe they go for the Blink Ravage here, but that's a lot of spells to use just to kill a Venomancer, who already bought his Aghanims, by the way. It is up in the stash, and Slark will use that Shadow Blade, which was newly acquired, blink forward by the Brewmaster, and now the Venomancer is going to get caught off. He chooses to use his ultimate, which I personally don't really agree with, considering he had his Aghanims, and his ultimate's not going to do anything there. It is just a complete waste. He should have definitely saved it there, but
I don't know about that. I'm actually I can somewhat see why you would do it, because you want to gank the Veno. He pops his ult, and then he's sending 3 of you to low health or back to the fountain. Unfortunately, none of them are actually going to go back to the fountain, because he didn't actually have his eggs on him yet, and he was just shy of hitting 11. So
that was my main complaint. I just think he should have saved it with that Ags, because now they would have an Ags ult and then 40 experience to level 2, but they have to wait a full minute and a half to really utilize that item. So that's great. You picked it up at 1620. And it gives you some HP and health and mana, but now the main purpose of that item is held back for a while. A little picky for me, but
Yeah, no,
Meantime, the Slark is going to go, maybe, or get picked off here possibly, as they do have one set or one sentry. They do not have any stuns though. He will go ahead and activate that Shadow Blade, and great use of it is he is able to dodge. But now he's staying around, and this is going to be a big mistake. And the Mystic Flare as well as the Viper Strike just absolutely cleans the floor with him, immediately falling down. Just a little bit cocky play there, staying around. He should have clicked on the Skywrath, saw there was a sentry, and said, "All right, you're coming for a gank. I'm out."
But like, surely he could see that it was just the two of them, and he ran back in twice. That was really questionable play there, but
maybe in middle lane, Shadow Demon might go down. There is three Shadow Poison stacks onto the TA, but nothing is going to happen to this. She's just going to continue to farm up this lane, and again, this game is going to continue to stall out, and it does look like for the most part that's going in the Radiant's favor. The gold is staying on their side, and the experience is starting to move that direction, and that's very important.
Yeah, a lot of it is just the Veno is just controlling this map. TA's putting pressure around, but it's just the Veno. You know, obviously he had that unfortunate death mid, but the game, like you said, it's just stalling out like I predicted in the draft.
Slark's not in a position to help this. Slark doesn't actually have a TP, so if anything happens here, sorry to cut you off, but if anything happens here, Slark won't be able to come, and that could be a big deal.
Yeah, and the Radiant team's actually gathering around here, so they may actually try to make something happen. As they do, of course, have all their ults up because nothing's happened.
Yeah, and I really like this decision with the Veno wards. It stops all of the blink daggers. Of course, not the poison damage from the wards themselves, but the attacks do. Oh, but Pumpkin Dota will go in anyways. He goes ahead and blinks in, and he will not get the ultimate off. His Mystic Flare does kill him, and the Tidehunter as well as the Shadow Demon were just not in position at all for this. They were standing out on the other side of the map, and that was just a lot of miscommunication coming out right there. And honestly, this is where they just need to back up. Miscommunication happened. Don't throw more at the team, but we'll see if the dire side chooses to just engage. And actually, the Gale Pirate didn't blink out. He's not going to be able to get out as the tick damage is stopping his blink dagger. And now Legor Pirate immediately gets burst. The blink echo slam does hit too, but it gets healed up by the mechanism. And Charlie is getting going on by the Slark. It's not enough damage. Shin or feet will fall down in the background. And now Slark is out of position. Will use the leap to dodge that stun, and they may choose to pursue, but they don't, because they can just push 2 free towers here with these stats, gain control of Roshan, and then get a bigger advantage in this game.
Yeah, props to Hurai there on the Skywrath Mage. That was incredible timing on the Ancient Seal. The second Tidehunter went to throw down the Ravage, he got silenced by the Ancient Seal, and he died before he was able to get his Ravage off. It was just really good timing there. Had that Ravage gotten off, that team fight could have gone very differently.
Same story with the Tidehunter, sorry, not the Tidehunter, the Brewmaster earlier on in that fight. Same thing happened there, especially with that Mystic Flare timing. He's been on point, clearing the heroes that he needs to, and honestly, sometimes being a good Skywrath Mage or playing Skywrath Mage well, it is just about using that ult to get that kill and never hesitating. And you can see when they just like commit and get things done and don't kind of, for lack of a better term, half-ass it, they get those free kills and then it just chains. And that's how these fights need to go down for them. So overall, great job from the Radiant using their lineup to its full extent.
The dire side is actually looking to make something happen here as they smoked up 4 different heroes here. Slark leading the way with the Shadow Blade, and they're going to find Viper.
Does get the right click immediately with the leash, will prevent Viper from running away, and with all the right clicks as well as the magic damage, it should be enough to bring him down, and that'll be a turnaround kill. Very important when you just lost a major team fight to get some picks, and what they need to do now is use this to get collateral. They are having Tidehunter push out middle lane, which is really smart, and it's worth noting that neither Brewmaster or Tidehunter got their ultimate off in the last fight, so they do have it for this next fight, but TA already pushing out the top lane to apply other pressure on the side of the map, and Venomancer doing the same thing. Mid tower should fall here.
Keep in mind this Earthshaker does have his blink dagger. His Echo's still on cooldown for 30 seconds, but you know, if this stalls out a bit and they maybe try to push the tier 2 here, I don't think they will because of the TA threatening top. But yeah, he was definitely lying in wait at the side, ready to
TA going for a little bit of a different build. I didn't notice this. She skips finishing the Manta style and just goes for the Desolator, which when you're at this kind of farm and experience advantage, even though it's 11-11, I kind of feel like this is actually a little bit of strong game sense from the Radiant side. They're aware that they have this kind of like snowball advantage that's starting to happen. Why not get a Desolator instead of finish out that Manta style? Because now she's going to deal so much more damage. She's going to amplify the Wraith King. She's going to amplify the Viper and herself, And they could even get Roche if any fight goes in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with it. I typically don't ever play that build, but I don't play much TA, so I agree that this was definitely the right choice here to go for this kind of thing, and it's gonna help them accomplish what they want.
Slark does one by a Sentry Ward, so they are aware of his positioning. The Radiant team will go ahead and back out and get into a little bit more of a defensive position where they can engage properly, get their ultimates off, and Venomancer, again, applying this pressure is just a nuisance is the best way to put it, because it just sits in this lane, constantly spams wards, and applies pressure that you have to worry about and think about. And meanwhile, this newly picked up Desolator and Meld is going to just devastate Roshan, and the dire side does have vision of this, but with this pressure, they have to make a decision, right? Do we run past the team and go for this TA, or do we stop them here and blow our fight while the TA takes Roche?
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Unfortunately, I think you're just kind of hemmed in your base right now. This Veno is he's just done such a good job of controlling his
blocked
bottom
himself
lane.
in, too.
Yeah. He does have a blink dagger, though, so he can get
top
out.
tower is under siege.
Roche will fall any second now. Like I said, that Meld and that Desolator, minus 12 armor. Roshan does fall. TA will pick that up, and a 23-minute Aegis will allow them to siege the high ground at a decent time here. I see Niz pointing out this Slark pushing top lane will get this trade. However, they're really going to need to mount a strong defense when this push goes to the high ground, because with the Desolator and the Aegis, and Char having an Aegis, they have two heroes with 2 lives, a lot of burst, and a lot of damage over time. So, like, I mean, burst plus sustain damage plus sustainability in the fight is a good combo, honestly. I guess is what I'm trying to get at, is just the combo of those is good. Smoke up will happen from them as well. The only one who's not smoked up is the TA, but they are just going to go ahead and initiate right in. The Ancient Seal goes on to Brewmaster. He will not be able to get his ultimate off, but the Ravage hits 4 heroes and 2 are immediately clear. Charlie is still alive as he will be able to take out the Earthshaker, but only one has fallen. The Echo Slam as well, doing so much damage. Char is still, does come up after his ulti, but he will fall immediately after, and now the Viper as well as the TA are in a very sketchy situation. Taking a lot of damage. The TA is about to fall, will fall eventually to the Shadow Demon from the Shadow Poison, as well as this Viper dying to the clap coming out of the Brewmaster. And honestly, that's just great teamfight initiation. The Brewmaster may have gotten silenced up, but honestly, that blink stun from the Tidehunter, and I didn't call it during that team fight, but the Echo Slam as well right afterwards just did so much damage.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention it before the Roche, the activity around Roche started, but this game has just been really, really tense, and you know the dire side's been having to respond to the Veno constant pressure and moving around, and the TA and all that stuff, and trying to find their farm. But on the Radiant side too, they could misstep and walk into a big Ravage, which could completely devastate their team. And the only one who isn't tense at all was the Veno, who was just kind of sitting bottom, just throwing down ward after ward after ward, doing pretty much whatever he wanted. But after they finally got that tier 2, they tried to make a play in mid. Maybe they forced it a little too much. Maybe they did a little bit too risky of a play, but they walked into what was a big Ravage, and it ended up with their team. I believe they got completely wiped there, all 5 of them, for I think 2.
Mm-hmm. No, most definitely. It was just one. Because the Earthshaker, I mean, everyone else survived. The Brewmaster got his ultimate off. Tidehunter's tanky. Slark is tanky. Obviously, like, they have so much tank, and maybe the Shadow Demon died, and I'm blind, but the Shadow Demon is inconsequential at this point.
Yeah, I was thinking at first the Shadow Demon died, but then I remember he was up above the fight, and he was making sure the Veno was controlled and not able to have free reign, dropping wards all over the place.
It's definitely important, but yeah, I mean, again, good job by the Tidehunter, good job by the Earthshaker winning their team, that team fight, in my opinion, because they bailed out their buddy, and when you have this kind of team fight, this is how you win the game. Team fight's one of those interesting strategies where no matter how the game is going in a lot of situations or in a lot of breakdowns of Dota games, if the team fight team lines up their ultimates synergetically, like almost perfectly or perfectly, you could argue it's impossible to be perfect, but point is, if they get that close, right, bam, fight won, 5 heroes dead, huge experience swing, huge gold swing, and the game is in a completely different place. And I really like to see these teams, these tournaments, you know, being aware of what their team does and really exploiting it. And now the President's on the Radiant side. What do? How are they gonna deal with this wipe and get back that snowball? That if we go to the golden experience graph, actually, my point is quite well iterated. The gold a little bit still in their favor because of all the towers, but that experience graph, just bam, immediate 4K drop.
Yeah, that was a very big fight for the Dire side, but they have to keep doing it. They have to keep executing like that, because they're not having team fights like that. They're just losing on the map. The Veno's doing too much, and it's allowing his team to have too much space, and they're just out farming you. So you have to do something. And unfortunately, sitting back and turtling isn't going to be it. And we're going to see them. They're going to try to do something here by trying to take it to bottom tier 1. And it looks like the Radiant team is just going to completely concede it.
Yeah, the Radiant team is not in position at all to deal with this tower. So I think it's definitely the right decision. You don't want to force yourself. Then they are just going to trade with the Venomancer. I mean, at least do damage, tower damage at least.
I'm very surprised at this Radiant side, considering they're just going to give up their tier 1, but they haven't at least put another hero up top with the Veno and pressure that tower.
Well, maybe they're concerned about... I know Ravage is still on cooldown, and it's getting close to the point where it's back up, but maybe they're concerned about Split, which is why they didn't defend that tower, and then why they didn't throw more heroes up there. I think maybe they're a little shaken right now, but this Invis rune and all their heroes moving up into the top lane is definitely showing another story that they want to get back into this game and start to pressure the Radiant or the Dire side instead of getting pressured by them. And I really do like this decision. However, I did hear the Shadow Blade popped by the Slark. He will actually run over the TA. Doesn't know it, but they do see the Wraith King, and Wraith King will get the stun on Pumpkin Dota. The Melt Strike does quite a bit of damage, but he does get the ultimate off, and now TA is in a very questionable position. The Aghanims is up on the Brewmaster, so he was able to get that clap off as well. Looks like Templar Assassin, probably that haste rune, does get away. Char was thrown up in the air, but it looks like Blink Ravage was used. It does actually hit the TA, which is important because otherwise it would have been a waste, but does she get away? 52 HP, gets right clicked and cleaned up by the Slark. But now their tower going to be taking quite a bit of damage, and they used 2 critical teamfight ults to turn around a gank, and they did get the TA, but do you think that was worth it? Like, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm honestly at a loss here. This game's like all over the place.
I mean, getting a kill on the TA was important, and luckily they did, because Slark, which is a fish, which apparently for some reason has arms, apparently has really, really long arms, and was managed to reach that TA. But I don't know if using the Ravage was necessarily the best thing, because now you can't team fight. And I think, like I said before, you can't sit back. You need to go and use that aggressively, because you're just losing on the map. So yeah, you know, they got the kill on the highest value target in the game, but you know, now what do? You sit and you wait for 90 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have a choice. They do have Echo Slam at their disposal, and the Primal Split is on, and actually decently short cooldown with that Aghanim's pickup, of course, dropping the cooldown, I believe, right? It does drop the cooldown. No, never mind. They cheat. I am stupid. I'm sorry, guys. The cooldown does get reduced quite a bit by levels. However, it just adds the extra spell or his set of abilities to the 3 different pandas.
Yeah, it used to reduce the cooldown.
Yeah, it used to. But now it is only 100 seconds right now. Will be 80 seconds or 120, 100 seconds at the next level. The Ravage is getting close, and the Radiant team as well needs to do something in this situation, because I don't think their team goes... I mean, in a vacuum, which team would you like in the next 20 minutes? Assuming that the game continues at this relatively even state, like, which team do you think has the better late game?
I mean, based on how the game is right now, I'd take the Radiant side for sure.
Okay.
What I'm really interested in seeing is what the Venomancer plans to do with this Mystic Staff. I'm hoping it's Sheep Stick, but yeah, I guess time will tell on that one. I think if he gets Sheep Stick and he really works on controlling that Tidehunter in a team fight, his team should have no problem going on and winning the game from here.
So then
TA's able to do a bunch. I think Wraith King's going to become more than just a walking stun in the next 10-15 minutes. And of course Sky can always do stuff. Viper's always a hero. So, you know, you're all kind of coming into your own. Yeah, you've got an Earthshaker Blink. yeah, you've got Shadow Demon, which is one of the best scaling supports in the game, but I mean, he doesn't really have the greatest disruption target. But I don't know. Maybe TA is that target. But,
yeah, but they will not get the Desolator debuff, which is important to note. Slark will go ahead and pop the Shadow Blade. Moving in to the middle of the river. Will get spotted out by this ward, so he is aware of it. He should just turn around and clear up this creep wave. The Radiant saw what was going on. They will back up, get in a more defensive position around this tower. They don't want to get caught out in a bad team fight, and it looks like the Dire is doing exactly what Niz has been saying they need to do. Getting up on this tower, getting up in their faces, and taking a fight. However, they are a decent amount spread out, and that's just going to give TA free roam to push these lanes while they're kind of twiddling their thumbs. They need to commit to something, really, instead of just kind of posturing.
If they do, this is going to be a big fight. Tide's at 1,200 gold, getting real close to the recipe.
He might get it from this ancient stack, right? It's 1,800, it's 1875.
1875.
So he might get it from this stack. It's going to be close. Should be really close, actually. I'm kind of seeing if my math in my head... No, he's going to be like, yeah, 100 short. 100 short from Refresher, 30 minutes into the game. That's not too bad. He did skip the Shivas and the TA did TP out. But the TA applying this pressure top pulled the Dire back. And the Dire, again, with the fact that TA and Wraith King and Viper are all just stronger in the late game, they need to do something sooner than later and get enough of a differential advantage that the carry potential on the Radiant side doesn't matter anymore, and that they can just win the fights outright.
Yeah, but oh, Veno has picked up a plate mail, so he's actually going for Shivas. He's not going for Sheep, which is still an okay pickup.
Yeah, I think honestly the Sheep is slightly better considering the teamfight ultimates that are coming out. And Shiva's is better against carries than it is against teamfight strategies, because Shiva's will allow you to slow through BKB, both the attack speed and then obviously the AoE, and the minus armor is decent. But if you want to help against teamfight, that 3.5 second Sheep on like an Earthshaker before he gets his ult will be really helpful. But this smoke up could turn into something really important, and Shadow Blade is popped by the Slark. There are no sentry wards that I see from the Radiant side, so they should not be able to see this gank. However, they are under the tower, and they just want to go, but the Earthshaker reveals himself, and this might just honestly make the gank fail. BKB is popped by the Viper, and now the ult is popped by the Panda, and if they're just smart, they should spread out, and this is a waste of Panda ultimate. And sure, he used BKB, but BKB is not nearly as important to your team as the Panda split is.
Yeah, unfortunately now they're going to have to back. I don't think you can hang around with Panda all-time cooldown. Veno finishes that Shivas. But now you're waiting again. Another 90 seconds. You're waiting before you can really do anything on the map.
Roche will spawn conveniently.
Roche is up, yeah.
But does an Aegis really help them that much? Because I feel like if they don't win the fight outright, they lose it, even if they have an Aegis.
I think Aegis isn't the biggest for them, but it's important that the Radiant side doesn't get it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I think if the Radiant side gets an Aegis, then you're in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Because that TA can play super ballsy. If the TA would even hold it, I think the TA would. But
yeah,
you can even put that on a Viper.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
run into the middle of the fight too.
With the Wraith King, I mean they both have Aegises, right? And then not to mention that the Aegis coming out of Wraith King does that 70% slow, 75 attack slow.
Yep.
A lot of pings coming out as the Brewmaster ult is starting to wear off on cooldown. 35 seconds remaining until they can use it again, and they will go ahead and enter the Roche pit, but it looks like Earthshaker did that alone, and maybe there's just a little bit of miscommunication going on right now, but they don't seem like they're on the same page as to what they want to do.
Yeah, they've got a... Interesting.
Not entirely sure why they're disrupting.
I think they're just trying to bait that? They got the pings out of it.
Oh, there is the Venomancer. He does go ahead and get caught up, but he pops the Shivas as well as the ultimate, and now Incursio is taking a ton of damage, and he's never going to get that Echo Slam off as he does fall to the Wraithfire Blast, and now the Ravage does come out and hits two, clears up the Venomancer, but the Refresher as well to get another stun, but the Wraith King was thrown up in the air, so it actually misses a few of them, and now the TA is coming in and just cleaning house. Already got down the Tidehunter. The Viper might fall during all of this, and so will Char, but his Aegis is still up, and now the slow will allow TA to fight even harder as she continues to go. She is going going on to the Slark. Doesn't look like she can quite finish him, and the slow is just too much. They're not going to be able to get any more targets between the Drunken Haze, and now the Shadowblade and the Urn will heal up the Slark in a big way, and he should be able to just reinitiate onto the Templar Assassin, and she's not going to be able to win this fight. Wicked Sick coming out of the Slark, and just great teamfight kiting and control coming out of the Dire side. And even though that started with the Venomancer basically ruining the Earthshaker, they still got so much out of the rest of their skill set that it didn't matter.
There was some, as you said, some great kiting and control in that team fight, but the use of their ultimates was just, it was actually really bad coordination from the Dire side in terms of using their big team fight ultimates, but they were still able to pull out the team fight and actually come out ahead somehow. They get the Aegis there. They do put it on Slark. And Slark's going to go around now and just kind of clear out some of the wards with that gem. So I should know where this one is. But yeah, if you had told me that the Dire side was going to, misalign all their ultimates like that, I never would have figured they would come out ahead on the team fight like that. But somehow they did, and that was actually a big momentum swing in their favor in this game.
I think it was because of this, mainly because of the staggered nature of the fight, which is funny because that prevented their ultimates from doing a lot, but it also prevented the TA, the Viper, and the Wraith King to all get on targets at the same time, which and the Dire was a little bit more together. So they always had a 1 to 2 number advantage in those smaller sets of the skirmishes amongst the bigger fight. And that's sometimes something that you really have to pay attention to when you're playing at this level and higher levels. Is fights can break down a lot of different ways, and you need to make sure it breaks down to the best of your advantage. And they may not have intended that, but if they can get those fights to happen again where they kill off something like the Viper and even blow the Wraith King ulti before the TA is really even doing too much DPS to the Slark and the other heroes, they could potentially win it. They just need to make sure the fight goes long enough for that to happen.
Radiant's bottom tower is being attacked.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to look at the Shadow Demon. That's Shadow Demon's role. He's got to try and control that TA for as long as possible. But it's really, really scary, especially when TA would have been late to the party there in that fight.
BKB picked up by her now is going to make Shadow Demon's job not too hard, because of course you still have the Purge, but now you can't disrupt her. So Purge usage is going to be incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you need to keep fighting in those team fights. And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to disrupt her now. So his disruption is going to be a desperation attempt to try to stay alive after he's thrown out his ultimate. But he does have 4 staff, so he could also use that defensively as well. As we see, the Radiant side has actually smoked up and they're hiding behind their TA.
The Dire side is just pushing bottom, so 2 ships passing in the night, but because the Dire side's closer to the Radiant tower, the Dire side wins out because they'll be able to turn this into a push immediately. They're actually pinging to go to base.
Yeah.
Veno, this actually might be a really smart decision, because what's going to happen here is the Veno's just going to stall, right? Veno wards. Sure, he's not going to stop this T2, but he's going to definitely guarantee it takes forever for them to go high ground. They do have a TA with Manta-style illusions. You have a Viper that, the Nether Toxin does hit buildings, and the T2 just fell. And if they don't get back and are ready to fight right now, the damage on the tower is going to start to mount up. But it looks like they should be back in time. The Shadow Demon's already there. Do they not have TPs? No, they do. Okay.
I was going to say,
Slark doesn't.
Don't all the Dire side TP back, but they must have known Slark doesn't have a TP because his inventory is full, and actually Tide didn't have a TP either. So they actually could have kept pressing, but
choose not to. And maybe this might turn into a kill in the middle lane as TA does get caught up, pops that BKB and just starts going ham. The Primal Split is thrown as the Fisher comes out as well, stunning Wraith King. The stuns continue out, and a great Echo Slam hitting 2 heroes. The Ravage is yet to be used as well, and the Earthshaker does fall during this. The Slark is taking quite a bit of damage from that Mystic Flare. Pops the Aegis. The Ravage will hit 3, and he does use the Refresher, but doesn't have enough mana to get the second one off, so the second Ravage is still off cooldown and could be used. They do get the clap off onto the Viper, and that will be a cleanup kill on him. 2 heroes down for the Dire's Radiant side, and those are 2 important carry heroes, as they are both the TA and the Viper, and are going to allow them to continue on these fights most effectively. Without them, they can't really mount any defense.
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled by that, because like I said, they
clap in on Ignagius. He's going to take quite a bit of damage, and with the Gush as well as the Drunken AC's down to 100 movement sleep, and Godlike from the Slark is that Basher, which could now be turned into an Abyssal Blade, which is very important to note, because that's another 2-second stun. That's just awesome, because it goes through BKB as well.
Yeah, like I was saying, I was a little puzzled by that, because they obviously knew that, you know, the Slark and the Tide didn't have TPs. That's why they went to push the top lane, but then they backed immediately, which I thought was a little weird, and then they ended up walking.
Clap in on the Skywrath Mage. They're going to continue to go. Sorry to cut you off. The Ravage is back up, like we said, or was never used. Does get 2. Char pops that Blade Mail, has his Aegis, but he will die. He's going to respawn the same time as the Viper, but he's just going to be able to be killed without any response. The Viper will TP in, and actually the Dire side says, okay, fine, we're going to go ahead and back out. Viper Strike is used, but again, that disruption canceling all of the damage, and is able to blink away. Great team coordination. The Shadow Demon should be lost here, but honestly speaking, if you did that much damage and all you lost at the end of the day was the Shadow Demon, then you're in a good situation. But the Slark might be caught out, does time his Shadow Dance very well, able to leap over the trees, will buy him enough time to run away, and he does have the Shadow Blade as well with the gem, which means he will be able to see any wards that will show his positioning.
I was getting a little worried there. The Radiant team was kind of just throwing heroes at them to defend. They were getting greedy in their defense.
Top lane, Ignacio might actually go down because of the Vino ultimate. Maybe not. The poison damage is sticking. He does go down in the fountain. And sorry, before you talk again, the stream is dropping frames again, guys. I'm sorry. It's been about 10 minutes or 20 minutes since the last time. I hope it stabilizes again as it did before. I really appreciate if you guys have patience and stay around. If you don't, I understand. But again, it seems to be stabilizing over time. So, you know, if you give it time and are willing to, thank you. It should be better as the day goes on. But all the VODs will be uploaded to my YouTube, so you can check them out there as well, which is linked below in my channel information or channel schedule. Sorry, Niz, go ahead.
No, it's just I thought they were getting a little bit greedy there with their defense, but that doesn't matter now. That time has passed. They're going to push top now, and this is going to be an interesting fight, because we haven't really seen the Radiant really go on the aggressive and really try to force a fight, pushing uphill, and they actually may not.
Smoke is popped by the Radiant. No vision by the Dire side to see the smoke right now. And maybe they could do something with this. They're getting trying to put the pressure on. They do throw the trap out. A little bit of hesitation and no initiation on this Brewmaster. However, he could have blinked away from most of their initiation, so probably the right call. But again, they will not get net a kill out of this, and will just kind of waste their smoke and back up. But they do have the. Do you still think they have the late game advantage, like just raw hero wise, or do you really think it comes down to which team has the tempo control / map control?
I think it's definitely leaning towards the Dire side now. I think it is still on it's tempo control based. But yeah, the Dire's quickly gaining control of this game, which you know, had you looked back 10-15 minutes ago, and you never would have thought that as being a possibility, but here we are. And actually, the gold graft is quite a telling. It's quite telling.
Yeah, and the experience graph too, right? Because they've been in an experience lead minus the 3K advantage that the Radiant side had at that one point from those fights, but they do have the main advantage now, or they do have a rather large experience advantage now. And maybe they're going to try to smoke up again here. They have 5 heroes, or they do have 5 heroes grouped up here, but no smokes are currently in the inventory. Brewmaster's about to pick up an AC that is also worth noting.
Yeah, that'll work really well for his team, of course. Auras work while you are in your ultimate as Brewmaster, so that will help his teammates all fight long.
They're grouping up. This is really tense right now. Like, I don't really know what to say. It looks like maybe they might try to do something here. Wraith King, so 2 gems are on the map. And maybe this is the fight that we're going to see. Blinken and clap by the Brewmaster as well as Blinken and the Ravage. He does get the first one, and the Refresher hits 4 heroes, and the second Ravage hits another 4. Immediately 3 are on the ground. The Slark is going ham, gets the double kill. Char down to 313 HP, will die, and the Aegis is popped. The Ignatius, the Vindamancer, is caught in the corner, does use a good ward to hide himself, but GG is called as the game goes to the dire side. And honestly, great game, just like great game, back and forth. Awesome action. I don't really know what to say at the end besides the team fight coordination paying out in the end for the dire side. But honestly, the Radiant side had a lot of good plays too. Your thoughts on this game, Nis?
Well, just the Radiant side started off really well. You know, they did well in their lanes. Veno was star of the game off the first 20 minutes of the game, and yeah, unfortunately they weren't able to push uphill. Right from the draft, I thought that both teams were going to struggle pushing uphill, and you know, it took half an hour for the Dire team to really get their stuff together. But once they started getting those Ravages going and the Echo Slams going, they were able to win the team fights, and well, the Radiant team tapped out.
Well, fair enough, guys. We will be back in the next 5 to 10 minutes with the next game. I will update the title with that game when we get that information. If you guys are enjoying this cast, please follow my Twitch, my Twitter, or my YouTube, which are all whatever various forms, Dota Raptors, at Dota Raptors, Twitch TV/Dota Raptors. And if you're enjoying Niz, definitely check out his Twitter at Nizcast as well as his Twitch/Nizcast. Again, I apologize for the frame dropping. It's only 15% over the last 2-hour cast, so it's kind of starting to slow down, guys. I hope that continues. I know I'm a little choppy right now, and I will type this into the chat, but we will be back in the next 5 to 10 minutes. But all of the VODs are recorded locally and will be perfectly fine as far as the choppiness goes, so you can always check those out. My YouTube is linked below, and I've already plugged it, so you should check it out if you're not enjoying the frame dropping. That being said, for the third time, we will see you guys in 10 minutes.